Hello, everybody. This is episode 7 of the Old Glory Games podcast, and I'm here with Greg. My name is Kyle, and as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube or any video podcast format, you'll see on the screen here, we have this gentleman here of the Oakland A's, Rickey Henderson, and if you're not familiar with this guy and his career, I think you're in for a treat. What do you think, Greg?
Absolutely. This guy was so much fun to watch and entertaining. Just that picture there, it screams old school. I mean, I love the high stirrups. I like the wristbands. I like the batting gloves, that whole feel. And, that picture was taken, during his prime, and watching him get on base and basically play cat and mouse with the pitcher and just all of the things that went on during that process. It's an art form. He made stealing bases an art form. And I'm not saying it wasn't an art form before, because you had Lou Brock and Maury Wills and guys like that stole a lot of bases. But Rickey Henderson took base stealing to another level. So when he got on base, either by walk or by hit, when he got on base, now the pitcher's attention is divided between the plate and first base, or whatever base Rickey Henderson was on. And just that back and forth between the pitcher and he was just fun to watch. And back during that time when stealing bases had more of a priority, more guys did it than they do today, even though the rules now encourage more base stealing, and we can get into that a little bit later. But the numbers he put up, I'm sure a lot of people aren't aware of. But yeah, Rickey Henderson was a very entertaining, athletic, fantastic baseball player. Now, he knew he was good.
No, he wasn't.
He wouldn't hesitate to tell you. And that was part of the entertaining deal as far as his style of play is concerned. And he referred to himself in the third person, and he's got probably a few quotes attributed to him that he really didn't say, but it sounds like something he'd say. So I think people just picked up and ran with it. But yeah, certainly somebody that if our listeners have never seen him play or don't know who he is, I mean, I'm sure YouTube's got probably a bunch of his highlights and whatnot. And you, I'm sure, will agree with us that Rickey Henderson was a fantastic player, very entertaining player, fun to watch. First ballot Hall of Famer. I mean,
I'm going to indulge myself a little bit on him, because this is kind of my idea for this particular program. I would fully admit that he was not the most humble guy in the world, but
no, no, he was not.
I was never an Oakland A's fan. Just for just transparency here, I'm a Washington fan across the board. The only deviant there is the Miami Hurricanes, but everywhere else, I'm a Bullets fan. I'm a Redskins fan. I'm a Capitals fan. I'm a Nationals fan. I'm a Washington Mystics fan. At least I was. It went crazy. So, but I'm not in it for that. I just love this dude. And because I remember that season, in perspective, he stole 130 bases in a season. And to put that into perspective, there
are 162 games in a season, folks.
I watched games where he would steal 2 bases on one series. He would steal first and steal second. I'm sorry, of course. He would steal second and then steal third. And then I've even seen him steal home base too. He would go and do this was done by people like Jackie Robinson and the Negro Leagues. Maybe you can speak to this too. I'm getting really excited here, by the way, on the subject. But the Negro Leagues would play that small ball. They would get on base and they would steal bases. They would do that. They would do athletic type plays, to your point, Greg, where they would put the pitcher in utter turmoil. Because, like you said, Greg, if you are watching this and you haven't played baseball or understand baseball, let me break it down a little bit, because I pitched 1 year in high school. When you have a person on base, you can't do a full rotation wind up for your pitch. If you do, guess what happens? Based on the rules of baseball, once you start your momentum, that guy can take off and it's gone. So if you watch baseball, if a guy's on base, they're looking to the left. If it's person on second, they're looking behind them and they're wondering, because if the guy's going to steal, that changes the whole complexion of the game. If they get to second base, that puts them into the scoring position, which means that one hit scores a run if they're fast enough. And so he put so much pressure on these guys, and so they had to be mindful of that. But this guy was just incredible. And Greg, I don't know much about the art of stealing, but there is a lot of science behind it. If you're on your left foot, your right foot, if the pitcher's doing something on a tendency here or there, or if the catcher is, they could do a pitch out where they could actually try and trap you and try and do that. So you have to be really, really super duper smart to do it. And you have to get on base first, which means you have to be a decent hitter, or you have to be at least able to read the pitches so you don't swing on bad pitches.
Exactly. You got to get on base. You can't steal them if you can't get on base, and that's one of the many things he did well. I've got some other numbers here. So, and you probably have some of the same numbers as well. He was nicknamed the Man of Steel.
Oh,
Steal. He holds the major league record for career stolen bases, 1,406. The guy in second, which I remember Lou Brock as a kid, because he was before Rickey Henderson's time, and Lou Brock was the man as far as stealing bases. Lou Brock stole 938. So Rickey Henderson is way ahead of the guy that's second. He holds the major league record for career runs scored, unintentional walks, and leadoff home runs. Not only did he set the single season stolen base record with 130, he stole over 100 bases in a season 3 times.
Hey, look at this.
He played 25 seasons and was in the top 10 in stolen bases 21 of those seasons. And for those that can't see the picture, I mean, it's just incredible. It's ridiculous. They can't see the picture that Carl put up. I'll read it for you. If a ball player stole 60 bases a year for 22 years, Rickey Henderson would still have more steals. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just shocking and incredible, but it is very accurate. So I think we can safely say that nobody's going to break that record. Nobody's going to break that record. And it's one of the records that doesn't get talked about enough. Now, if you're an analytics person, you know that a lot of those numbers revolve around getting on base. And Rickey Henderson absolutely did that. He not only got on base, he stole a bunch of bases to the point, and going back to your point where, okay, if he gets a single and he steals 2 bases, first to second, second to third, and all you got to do is get a single to drive him in. I mean, that's effective baseball. I mean, station to station baseball. But yeah, being able to get on base and steal bases, I mean, that just opens things up so much offensively, especially if you're a team that doesn't hit a lot of home runs. That is a very effective way of playing. If you're not hitting a bunch of home runs to drive in runs, but you're generating runs because you're stealing bases and that sort of thing, putting pressure on the defense and the pitcher. But yeah, I'm actually glad you brought up this topic to talk about Rickey Henderson, because I feel like he's underrated, especially the way the game is played today, but the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, I love baseball. Let me check that. Let me just preface this. Baseball really hasn't changed at all since its inception. And if you watch the Ken Burns special on baseball, there's a session in there where they talk about how they just got lucky, essentially, in terms of, I think it's 90 feet to first base. Is that right? 90 feet per. And how is the metrics are just perfect given a person's arm strength and the capacity to run fast, so that you always have a tight play on first if it's certain way hit. It's just because if you move the bases a little bit further, then everyone gets out or everyone gets safe. So it's like a perfect situation. So the game's been the same, other than maybe the mound being a little bit higher and lower, depending on whatever, Gibson era or whatever. But outside from that, it's been the same. So the era that Rickey Henderson played in is essentially the same era we're playing in now in terms of everything else being equal. And so, yeah, so it's a fair comparison, and it's not ever going to change. And so I'm saying this to say one of my favorite players of all time is Ty Cobb. And Ty Cobb, if you don't know anything about Ty Cobb, oh my gosh, this guy was out of control, amazing. He was a guy who was just animate about baseball. He didn't care about home runs. He cared about scoring runs, getting on base, stealing bases. And he was the leader for a long time. And of course, Lou Brock had passed him. And so I remember Henderson saying he wanted to pass Ty Cobb on his way up to getting to Lou Brock. So I guess what I'm saying here is that one of the reasons why I like Henderson so much is that he had his place in history. He understood who came before him. He understood how the game was supposed to be played, and he conditioned himself so he could play a long time. So he had to actually be healthy for those 25 years, you said, to be able to play that and to extend the record beyond, I guess, 500 stolen bases. I think it was like 400, 900 was what Henderson was. Brock was. And then he went over to about 1,400, I believe. I think I got on the screen here. So he had to play longer to do that. And so he understood all that and packaged it in such a way that paid homage to the era before him. And to me, saying all that, he epitomizes what this podcast is all about. What do you think, Greg?
Absolutely. So, excuse me, I'm sorry. To leverage the point you just made, in order to steal that many bases, that speaks to his longevity, his ability to take care of himself and stay healthy. He was an All-American high school running back. He ran for over 1,000 yards twice, and he actually had over a dozen scholarships to play college football. And his childhood dream was to play for the Oakland Raiders. Yes, I will. Can you put that picture up one more time?
Yeah, let me pull him up here. Yeah.
Look at those arms. He was put together. He was not only a great baseball player, he was a great athlete, period. He also played basketball in high school too. So in order to have any type of record like that, that speaks to playing at a high level for a very long time. And that's another reason why nobody's going to break that record. Nobody's going to break the career stolen base record that he has, and nobody's going to break, in my mind, the single season record for stolen bases, even though the rules have recently been tweaked to encourage base stealing. So there's a pitch clock now. Okay. Now, back then, pitchers could take as long as they wanted, more or less, to, pitch the ball to the batter, to, deliver the ball to the plate. And I'm sure it was probably trickier back then to try to time your jump and try to find that one tip-off that lets you know, yeah, he's going to the plate. He's not throwing over here. with the pitch clock, when he has to go to the plate. So I'm sure that makes stealing bases easier. Also, there's a rule where as a pitcher, you can only throw the ball over to the base where the runner is 3 times. And if you don't pick the runner, and if you don't pick the runner off by the 3rd throw, it counts as a balk, and the base runner is awarded the next base. So that's another thing. Also, the bases are bigger. So the league is doing what they can to try to encourage more base stealing, but nobody's breaking that record. If you gave him those advantages that I just talked about as far as the rule changes, who knows how many more bases Rickey Henderson would have had stolen if he played under today's rules. But it's players like that. And, again, as far as watching baseball, I'm a big Phillies fan. And whenever they wear those throwback uniforms, it just reminds me of when I was a kid. And just seeing, that old school look. I mean, I love it. Back in the day when I played, Little League and Pony League and Colt League and all of that stuff, I mean, I had my wristbands and I had my stirrups pulled as high as I could pull them, get my mom to cut the bottom out and sew in elastic so I can pull them up even higher. That whole thing. I mean, that's the era I really enjoyed watching baseball. I love watching baseball now, but at that, there's the man, Mr. Michael Jack Smith. And actually, I got one of his, uniform tops for like Father's Day, and I just wore it this past weekend. I love it. But just baseball during that period of time was just so enjoyable to watch, and Rickey Henderson was absolutely part of that. And I'm hoping that with these rule changes that we'll see more guys, steal bases and play that type of game. And I think it would make it really exciting. And the other reason the league put in those rules was to speed the game up. They felt like, it's boring to watch. How are we going to get casual fans to watch more if there's a lot of quote unquote downtime, not a lot of action? That's just the nature of the game. They can do some things to speed the game up, but I mean, baseball is a very methodical, strategically played game. And, for those of us that love baseball, we don't mind it. But I get it. The league is trying to expand the game to where casual watchers will watch more. I get all of that, but, that's getting a little bit off topic. But, back to Rickey Henderson, he's just part of that era where I really love watching baseball. And going back to one of the alleged famous quotes attributed to Rickey Henderson. So he played for 9 teams, and I think he played for the Mariners, not Mariners, the A's, 4 different times.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And it was alleged that I guess one game when he was with the Seattle Mariners, that he was talking to one of his teammates, John Olerud, and he was talking about how because John Olerud wore a batting helmet when he played first base. Yep. And the only other guy that I had ever seen do that was Dick Allen for the Philadelphia Phillies. And I just found out a little earlier that Dick Allen wore a batting helmet when he played first base because people were throwing things at him. And he wore a batting helmet to protect himself. So Rickey Henderson, I guess, is reflecting on John Olerud, and, his wearing of that batting helmet at first base. And he goes, well, I had a teammate in Toronto that wore a batting helmet while playing first base. And Olerud replied, that was me, Rick.
Yeah, I think Olerud had a head injury, I believe, at some point.
Yeah, it was something like that. And it sounds like something Rickey Henderson would say, and a lot of media said it was true, but I think it was found out later that he didn't say that. But it sounds exactly like something he would say. So he was entertaining on the field and, off the field too. But yeah, if you never seen Rickey Henderson play, I encourage everybody to pull up some of his highlights.
Yeah, a lot of numbers too. He went from 39, 35, for the Oakland Athletics, then to the Yankees, then back to the Athletics. Then Athletics changed numbers one more time. Then he went for the Toronto Blue Jays, then changed numbers again there. I guess he's trying to get his number back, I guess. Then back to the Yankees for some more time there. Then back to the Seattle Mariners, back to the Yankees, and then finally ended his career with the Red Sox, 2002, and then lastly ended up with the Dodgers. So he was a journeyman toward the end, but yeah, in his prime, I mean, he was absolutely a nightmare for every opposing pitcher. So good on him. All right, cool. So Rickey Henderson is definitely. We should do, Greg. We should probably come up with some sort of an award that we can do, or we'll do a profile every now and then. We got to figure out a name for an Old Glory person or player or something. We'll come up with something. Give him a virtual trophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe
I like that idea.
Maybe we'll raise a virtual banner and
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be on.
Who knows?
So yeah, let's do it.
Okay, guys. So I know this episode's a little shorter than normal, but I think we've covered it pretty well. I'm excited about doing this podcast in general. And Greg, I will give you the last word on this if you want to talk about anything else. But actually, let me do one thing. I'll let you close out. But let's talk about analytics a little bit and just why the analytics in general will be a reason why we won't see anyone come close to breaking this, because it just doesn't make sense in terms of what the numbers say. What your thoughts are? I'll let you close everything out.
Sure. So to me, from an analytics perspective, and I go back to when I watched Moneyball a few weeks ago to get a feel for where all that came from in baseball. So baseball in general is a very stat-driven game. And, Billy Beane with the Oakland A's, he was the GM for them. When was it? The 90s, I think. And his thing was all around, getting guys on base. You can't score runs if you don't get on base. That sort of thing. So in looking at stealing bases and scoring runs, because that was their thing, it's like, and I think his assistant was telling him, we don't need to look in terms of buying players. We need to look in terms of buying runs. It's all about scoring runs, and you can't score runs unless you get on base. So in looking at what Rickey Henderson did and what stealing bases does as far as scoring runs is concerned, because again, he is the all-time leader in runs scored, and I'm sure not a whole lot of people know that. So yeah, so in today's game, there's certainly a place for that. And, having your leadoff hitter get on base and steal a base or two, or at least be a legitimate threat to do that, I think it opens things up for other things. And I think, getting on base and stealing bases, I feel lends themselves very well to analytics. And I would say, if there was a player like Rickey Henderson today, the analytics experts would be drooling, in my opinion. And it's kind of interesting that you can take a player like Rickey Henderson and drop him in, to me, almost perfectly into today's game. And I think he would be as successful, if not more successful. He also leads Major League Baseball in career leadoff home runs. The fences are closer in these days in these stadiums. He would probably hit more home runs than he did back then. The bases are bigger and all these other things we talked about. He'd steal even more bases. He'd be an analytics expert's dream. And so when you have a player that most pundits feel like they could have played in any era, that's a special player. And Rickey Henderson was absolutely a special player. He's very underrated as far as I'm concerned. And again, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer, got 94.8% of the vote.
Say again, I'm sorry.
So
I missed that.
The baseball writers, 94.8% of the vote.
That sounds pretty
First
good.
ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So his peers and the writers, they knew how great this guy was, and I'm hoping that people that aren't as familiar with him or they've never heard of him, look him up. I mean, he was an outstanding player, and it'd be neat to have a player like him in today's game, and I'm sure today's fans would be just as entertained as you and I were with Rickey.
And can you imagine him on social media?
Absolutely.
I'm thinking, can you imagine?
Oh, he'd be a train wreck. Let's be honest. He would be bulletin board material every day.
All right, Greg, with that, I gave you the last word. And so everyone else, let us know what you think about what we're doing. Right now, we're in our 7th episode. We're about to record our 8th episode. Let us know how you feel about this. Email us at podcast@theconservativetake.com. Send us critique. What can we do better? What can we do more? And let us know. The feedback would be awesome. And at some point in time, Greg, we'll maybe do a live show. We'll do some rewards and we'll do some gifts, prizes, whatever. We're open to just about anything here, but we're airing on Spotify, on Apple, on Google, and on the video format on YouTube. And for Greg, my name is Kyle. We're going to close out tonight, and we will see you in the next one.